This is not a new idea. We've made a few videos already over the past few years diving into this nostalgia-based, kind of fan service-y based conversation. Because hey, this is actually a legitimately intriguing thought that I think has been mentioned more often than not, that it kind of warrants getting talked about every few months or so. Today we're heading over to the Pittsburgh Penguins and talking about one of their most expensive guys. He is a legend in the NHL, a multi-time Norris winner who probably should have won the Norris maybe a few more times throughout his NHL career. He was the first defenseman to reach 100 points in a season in decades, and he is now on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, we are talking about 34-year-old Erik Karlsson. Now, I'll be very transparent here. I'm recording this audio on the night of Friday, November 8th, so it'll be uploaded a few days later. The information might not be too accurate if you want to compare numbers and stuff, but essentially, Erik Karlsson has found himself on the Pittsburgh Penguins in a pretty intriguing spot. $11.5 million a year till the end of 2026-2027, and his offensive production is nowhere near the 101-point caliber pace he had 2 seasons ago. Last season with the Pens, he had 56 points in 82 games. This season, he is on pace for 51 points. He has 10 points in 16 games so far, with 2 goals and 8 assists. It's very obvious to acknowledge that Erik Karlsson is overpaid. He is still very talented, but with a Pittsburgh Penguins team that has not really found themselves the best results so far, it's just difficult to really bring to the surface an 11-point-something million caliber defenseman. And I think some of the inconsistencies with Karlsson can be illuminated very easily by just heading over to the subreddit. You see, a few days ago, the Karlsson train got started in a 4-2 victory for Pittsburgh against Washington. This was the Friday Night Showdown, the Ovechkin versus Crosby show. Karlsson had 2 points, a goal, and an assist. And if you go over to the hockey stat card for this particular game, you will see that while Erik Karlsson did contribute a significant deal offensively, he had the highest offensive impact on the team, he also had the second worst defensive impact. So this is kind of the tail of the tape here. Erik Karlsson is doing fantastic things offensively, his defense sucks, and we have posts like this being made on the Our Penguins subreddit that pretty much describe everything holistically. Karlsson, after a terrible game last game, he comes out and single-handedly gets us the 2-0 lead. And then he gave up 2 rush goals that he played both just absolutely terribly and gives it right back. What a classic! I'll admit, when he came to the Penguins, I was so excited to see him with Sid and Malkin. I didn't expect a run to the Cup, but I thought we were going to put up so many goals and be entertained. What a harsh reality check it's been. Sometimes you roll the dice and it just doesn't work, but I didn't think it would be this lackluster. Erik Karlsson just isn't worth it, Fantasy Footballer 87 said. The only way Erik Karlsson can help us is if we have the best true stay-at-home, fast-skating, and shot-blocking defenseman of the NHL paired with him. My mind goes to Chris Chelios. I think it's time to cut EK or put him on the left wing. He can't play defense. Now, this isn't surprising. And so, with all of this talk floating around about how the Penguins are an old team, they might be on the cusp of changing directions, they want to get younger, maybe they still want to keep competitive at the same time while Crosby and Malkin and Letang are there is an idea that has been floating around on social media the past few months that I wanted to talk about once more because of a tweet made by NHL Watcher. This was also from November 8th. Any chance Erik Karlsson returns to Ottawa? Do they have a need for him? Do they have space if Pittsburgh eats a percentage? And of course, this idea is ludicrous. It is nuts because Ottawa was Erik Karlsson's home in the NHL for so many years as the captain even. But the last time he played for Ottawa was back in 2017-2018, a year removed from the Ottawa Senators' deep playoff run. He had spent the next few years in San Jose, and now he's on Pittsburgh, where he already played a season and he's starting out his second, so it's been a while since Erik Karlsson was in that Senators organization. Now, there are some interesting replies to this tweet by NHL Watcher. And they kind of dive into some of the extra reasons as to why he left and what else happened. This is actually a thread that I thought was interesting. Saber's Bunny replied saying, nope, Karlsson's wife has drama there, big reason they left. And then you actually had Mike from Top Shelf Hockey, yeah, big buddy of mine and fellow YouTuber as well, replying saying the drama was with Mike Hoffman and that was years ago. The Karlssons still live in Ottawa in the offseason. There is absolutely no reason preventing a return from a personal standpoint. Plus, he's best friends with Daniel Alfredson, who is the coach there now. The main issue preventing it is the contract. I wouldn't be shocked to see him back before he retires, even if it's just 1 or 2 seasons. And here's the thing. Erik Karlsson in 2024-2025 back to Ottawa, I'm not too sure. But if you wanted to talk about defense, how this team would need to actually pair Karlsson with somebody who can play competent defense in order to see effective value out of Karlsson. I mean, if you need a team that actually looks good defensively, Ottawa might be that team. Not to say that their 6 defensemen are all fantastic, but as we had spoken about in the video yesterday, hey, there are some guys who are legitimately talented suiting up for this blue line. Thomas Chabot had a great week. Nick Jensen has been awesome as well. Some of these guys can play very solid defensive hockey to a greater capacity than some of these Penguins guys can. So if you pair Erik Karlsson with a mobile, shot-blocking, defensively minded guy and just say, hey, Erik, just do whatever the hell it is you want to do. We don't care how well you play defense, just score your points, give us something to cheer for, make something happen with Timmy Stu, make some plays, and we'll be good. If that is the guarantee that Erik Karlsson can get in the Ottawa Senators organization in 2026 or 2027 or whatever, if there is some sort of a clause or a guarantee or any sort of discussion surrounding that idea, I actually really think it would work out positively for everybody involved. When Erik Karlsson won the Norris Trophy a few seasons ago because he had a 100-point year, he was playing with like Jacob Megna as his D-pair partner. Not really anything special offensively, but Megna can block a few shots, and I know that because it was a very particular stat that I was paying attention to in those seasons. There is a pretty solid amount of talent on that Ottawa blue line at this moment, and even with some of the other guys that have been maybe not their best. Jake Sanderson, I think, hasn't been too impressive this season, but he has still been, at the very least, okay. With guys expanding on their games, like Jacob Bernard-Docker, who unfortunately got scratched the other day. Interesting to see that. And, of course, Nick Jensen, Thomas Chabot, there is potentially a positively valued decor in this system that would allow a guy like Karlsson to maybe play his best game. No more of this inconsistent, kind of great offensively, terrible defensively, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing going on in Pittsburgh, where he plays poorly and then he has a few really good shifts and then he sucks again and everybody's kind of used to it, but they also acknowledge that it's not necessarily good, even though Erik Karlsson does have some incredible talent. Never mind even talking about what the trade could look like or what the salary retained would look like. Obviously, there would need to be some of that. Like, you're not taking on $11.5 million of Erik Karlsson. At the very least, though, I will say it's good that for everybody's sake here, the contract does expire in 2027. It's not extraordinarily long like it was back when it was originally signed. Now, there's a little bit of breathing room, especially if you retain that salary. So if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. What are your opinions about the idea of trading away Erik Karlsson? Do you think it is even possible? And if so, let's say it's Ottawa that bites because it's the very fan-servicey, team-friendly sort of idea. If that's the team that gets Erik Karlsson, then what kind of return do you want? Which prospects, which picks do you think make this go through? Which defensemen do you think on the Ottawa Senators roster would be appropriate to balance out the scales and make it an even rostered trade? If you're a Sens fan, what are your thoughts on the idea of Erik Karlsson getting traded back over to Ottawa? And do you think it's a lot more likely now that Alfie is at the helm? Not to mention the fit. Whom do you think it is that Erik Karlsson will play beside? Who do you think it is that will give him the best opportunity to be his best self? There are a lot of names that are floating around there in Ottawa's decor that have been a lot better than we expected, so this certainly will be a fun discussion to follow along with. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.